Hey everyone, this is Damion. I'm the CFO at Renaissance Ranch and just wanted to take some time to show you this personal budget spreadsheet. It's a Google sheet and will be shared in the new app that's coming out. And so, yeah, just want to take a few minutes to show you how that works. Not going to go through how to open a Google sheet or where to go as far as getting to Google Docs or Google Drive. That could be in another tutorial and should be pretty simple. My understanding is this is just going to be a shared link. So you'll be able to click on that either in the app or in your email, or you can go online on a computer and sign in with your Google and click on the link. And it's going to take you to this personal budget template. And this is a template that I used when I got sober and trying to go through all of the debt that I owed, how I was going to pay people back, how I was going to live. And it was a really scary time for me. I didn't know how I was going to do that. So I used this sheet, made this sheet and used it in order to help me keep things organized and to kind of know where I was and help me budget and find and manage my money. I'd never used a budget before for my personal finances. I grew up and got my degree in accounting and have done that for other people for years, but I was too scared to do it for myself. So that's a little bit about me, and just wanted to share that with y'all so you can take a look at this and use it, and hopefully it helps you too. But anyway, you're going to see here, the name of this is called the Personal Budget Template. And again, it's a Google Sheet, which is kind of like, if any of y'all are familiar with Microsoft Excel spreadsheet format. And here you're going to see the first sheet on the tabs below, and then you've got your number of rows here, and then you've got your letters for columns. And so this sheet you're not going to do anything with. This is where everything populates to show you what you have coming in, what you have going out, and any savings that you have, and then the net cash balance per month of what's available, either for spending or what you basically have to live off of after everything else is paid. And so I'm going to walk you through these tabs here at the bottom, and they're color coded, these first two. These are the main ones. If you have enough money to do some savings, that's great. And then you're going to see a debt tab, and I'm going to talk about that last. But this is the summary sheet, so no information is entered here. What you're going to do is you're going to come down and click on the monthly income tab, and you're going to see still the same name, personal budget. I've got work one, work two, and other. The reason I put that is I had taken working another job in order to pay people back and to live off of for a period of time in early recovery. These are all editable, and I've tried to color code these of where you can enter information. If you're not supposed to change something, the sheet will populate an error and say, hey, just a warning, if you change this, it'll mess something up. But I don't have any of the cells locked, so anything can be changed. Just know that warning will pop up if you're changing something that possibly shouldn't be changed. And I'm actually going to color code these green as well. So you could say, you know what, I'm working, I've got a job at McDonald's, right? And at McDonald's, I anticipate making, and this is a monthly amount. And if you wanted to do weekly amounts, you can come over and do some different addition and subtraction, division, multiplication. The sheet has all of that built in, and I can show how to do that maybe in another one. But this is just going to be to the generalization of how to use this sheet. So McDonald's, let's say you're going to make, and I don't know what I should put here. Let's say we make $850 a month working at McDonald's. And let's say maybe there's another part-time job, mowing, doing yard work. How about that? And that brings maybe another $150. And I don't know if any of y'all are like me, but there were times where I went and donated plasma. I did other things that I could do just to have enough money. But I've just left it as other. Let's say maybe there's other income of maybe $100, right? So again, you can see here, the sheet will add this up. You can also highlight and drag, and it'll show you this is $1,100 in income per month that's coming in. And here on the summary sheet, you can see that your income has auto-populated. Okay, that's on the summary sheet. And so let's say we've got all of our work in. This is about what we anticipate making every month on money coming in. So then we're going to go to our monthly expenses, and this one looks a little more detailed. There's more information. There also can be added rows and different things if you have other expenses, but for the most part, this should be pretty consistent. Let's say you're living, so you've got rent as the first one. You can put dates in here of when things are due, just so you know. That was big for me to know when my rent's due, when my car payment was due, when my cell phone was due, when the utilities, if you have any, are due. That was really helpful for me to kind of budget out when in the month I get paid, not just the overall, but when those expenses were going to hit and how much available cash I was going to have to use. So let's say the first part here is rent, and let's say you're paying $650 for rent. You're in sober living. Okay, that's one expense. Utilities, if you're in sober living, the utilities are already included, so you don't have anything really to put there. But if you did, you could certainly put a date and time of when that was owed. I would say most utilities are going to be due around the same time your rent's due. So I always just budget for that to have it at the first of the month. And that can either be typed first of the month on your keyboard, or you can come here and copy and you can paste something that's already entered and it'll paste it there for you. But for right now, we're just going to leave that at 0. Let's say there's a cell phone that's due on the 15th. All right. And let's say that cell phone bill is $75, 75.00, or you can just type 75. Now we get here to some of the auto stuff. Some of this may apply to y'all, some of it may not, but just so you know how to use it if you have a car or when you get one. You're going to notice here that this is not green, and there's a little note that says auto populates after filling out fuel information. Well, here's your fuel information. The way I wrote this formula is just something very simple. It's knowing how many miles you get for every fill up. So let's say my car gets 400 miles. Okay, sort of fuel efficient, but not that great. Let's say it cost me $50 to fill up. Now, if you wanted to get more detailed, you could say, well, the cost of fuel is, an arm and a leg. It's $4 for every gallon, and it takes so many gallons to fill up. You can still come up with your fuel cost here, but that's how it's written, is just the total fuel cost. And then you're going to put in here how many miles you drive a day on average. So for me, I know that work is 15 miles away, and I drive there and back, but I also hit the gym on the way, and that's an extra 10 miles one way. So I could either say 30 miles plus 10 plus 10, which is 50, or you can put an equal sign here and say 15 to work, 10 more to the gym, 10 more back from the gym, and 15 miles to home. And that gives you 52. So this can either be entered as a formula with an equal sign, numbers, and plus signs, or you can just simply type 50. And then once you do that, then you've got trips here. How many trips per day do you take, right? And so for me, that's going to be really one trip out, one trip back, even though you're going somewhere else. It's really 2 trips per day. Now, if you're going to IOP and there's some additional mileage, most of the time, that's just going to be 2 trips per day. You might have, say you want to go with some brothers and go hiking or something, and there's more there. That can easily be changed, but you're still going to take 1 trip out and then 1 trip back home. And so that's how that's written. I would just leave that at 2 for the most part. But you can see that if with your average, this is on average, 400 miles a tank, $50 to fill up, 50 miles a day, 2 trips. This is going to give you 4 days in between each fill up in a 30-day month. You'll fill up 7.5 times. So your total fuel cost is going to come over and populate 375. Okay, that's how I came up with that. I don't put anything here for the date because obviously it's various times throughout the month. But that'll give you an idea that, yeah, I pretty much drive about 3, 4, 5 days, and then I have to fill up. And that gives you a good estimate on what to budget for fuel. Now, if there's an auto payment, that's fine. You can put that there if you don't have one. For now, we're just going to say, well, the budget my auto payment is $250 a month. Now we've entered all of this so far. Let's see how we're doing on the summary. So you can see we're only bringing in $1,100 a month, but already we're spending $1,350. So we've got a negative cash balance. And that happens sometimes, but that's what the purpose of this for, is that we can see what we're bringing in. Maybe the job at McDonald's is all we can do. Maybe the yard work is taking a lot of time, but it doesn't pay the best. Maybe we need a second job somewhere else that pays more, right? But for now, we're just going to leave those as is. And this would probably go up more depending on the job. But that's the whole purpose of what this does, is to show you what you've got coming in and what you've got going out. So anyway, we'll continue on. Auto repairs and maintenance, that's just for like fuel changes, maybe tire changes, things like that. I always put a little bit aside every single month so that I know I've got enough cash balance. So I'd recommend probably like 25 bucks or so. Then there's auto insurance. Most auto insurance is between $50 and $100. So let's just say 75 for this. And then we've got health insurance, if applicable, whatever your premium is. Maybe some of y'all are on your family's insurance. Maybe you don't have any. Maybe those premiums are $100 a month. But we can just guess at that right now, just for the purpose of teaching you the spreadsheet. Groceries, if there are any during the month. I typically shop every week and know how much I spend. But let's say we spend $100 in groceries, or excuse me, $50 in extra groceries a month. Now this is money that's going out. Some of y'all might qualify for food stamps and other things that would help with that. So depending on what your cost is, you would just simply enter that here. Okay, then I've got personal care. That's going to be any of your items that you go to the grocery store: hair gels, toothpaste, toothbrush. You could call that toiletries. And all of these can be renamed to whatever you want. But I'll just say personal care, let's say 10 bucks a month. Entertainment, any subscriptions you have, Netflix, Hulu, any of those types of show watching type subscriptions and streaming services, you can put that here if you've got them. Let's say we've only got Netflix and that's a little too specific. Let's say 20 bucks a month. Any other miscellaneous items? You notice here's the debt, and I'll talk about that last. I had this in here because I have child support that I owed. And so a couple things. If you're going to be putting in here your net numbers, like the money you get after you're paid, then this would be net. For me, I put in gross numbers, which is a little bit different. But for the most part, it's really easy to just keep it at what you take home, not what taxes are and other things like that. So I recommend using net numbers here and net numbers here. If you have child support that you owe, you put that number here. But let's say you don't have any children or any other alimony or court ordered stuff. This could also be any other type of money that's owed for legal things. So again, you can change the name. And notice here I've got vape and nicotine. Let's be honest, most of us in recovery are either using tobacco, smoking, vaping, or using nicotine. I still use nicotine. Haven't quite stopped that crutch yet, but we put here about what we spend a month. Let's say we spend probably too much, but let's say 50 bucks a month on nicotine. So that rounds up and finishes our monthly expenses. Now, if we come back here, we show that we're at a negative cash balance of $580. So again, let's say we change this to a different job, and maybe some of y'all start working for a moving company, and they actually pay you $1,000. Okay, or maybe you do telephone sales, or we could just put sales, right? You can see once that income increases and we're working, and trust me, I know that there's IOP and groups and other things to do, but this is mainly just to show you what you need to bring in or what needs to be cut. You know, maybe this cell phone bill is too expensive. Maybe having an iPhone isn't the best thing for right now. Maybe you need a flip phone, a track phone from Walmart. That's 10 bucks a month. And let's say we do that. That saves you another $65 a month, right? And so this is something that you can kind of go through, being honest with what you've got coming in, being honest with what you have going out. Where are the discrepancies? You know, maybe we're driving too far to work. You know, maybe we need to drive a little bit less. Maybe there needs to be more carpooling. That might be something to look at. Anyway, these are options for y'all to kind of take a look at and figure out what's going to work best for you. And again, if you have something that's due at specific times, I recommend putting when that is, so you kind of know when it hits, right? Same thing with income. You can actually add out here, well, McDonald's, I get that a month, but I get paid every 2 weeks. The sales, they only pay me once a month, and it's at the end of the month for the previous month. And then you kind of know when your cash is hitting and when these expenses are hitting, and can adjust accordingly. Savings is built the same way. If you are able to take some of this positive cash balance and put that away, maybe you save on the first of the month when you get paid, and maybe you save again on the 15th of the month. Or if you have enough cash available, you can save 3 times a month. And let's say you only put $25 in every time you save, right? That's still going to come up here and affect this cash balance. It shows you your savings, it shows your expenses, it shows your income. Now back to the debt. You know, I left this debt here. The reason I put it there is because I owed a lot of people a lot of money, and I had to go in and figure out how I was going to pay everyone back. And so what I did is I came into this debt tab, and this was probably the scariest tab for me. And this should all probably be green. And I just started listing out everyone that I owed. I owed my parents. And I did put a due date in because I didn't know when I was going to pay him, but I know I owed him $5,000. Then I owed money to my brother. I borrowed $350 from him. And let's say I've got treatment to pay for. Maybe I owe a few thousand on that. And then I wrote some bad checks to a bank. I owe them $750. And then I took out a loan and defaulted on some credit cards. And maybe those are $5,000. You know, but anyway, all of this can go through. Sorry, switch screens there. Clicking the mouse too quick. But all of this you can go through and let's see, I'm not sure what I did. Let me reopen this screen over here. There we go. Hopefully we're still recording. Yeah, it looks like we still are. Sorry about that, guys. But let's say that this is the total amount of debt that I owe. It's $14,000, $14,100. And so what I did is, after I figured out how much that I owed, I came into this monthly expense and I said, you know what, I'm going to start paying $150 a month toward these debts. And I worked on my credit by paying credit cards, and I took care of family, most of my family first. My parents, I talked to them and made amends to them, and they were willing to wait. And I wanted to pay them back first, but it ended up working out that I paid them last. But I recommend getting those personal relationships fixed first, and then start working on these types of things, but always keeping commitments. And if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're paying $150 a month, that means you can start paying each of these back at $30. You know, and most people will be willing to work with you. For me, I just called and shared my story and talked about being in recovery, and that I wanted to pay people back, that I wanted to get right with them and make things right. And then I used the snowball effect. So every single time, I don't know what this Zoom thing is doing. Every single time that I started to pay someone back and I got that amount paid down, let's say my brother for $350, then I took that extra money that I was paying him, and I did not change how much I was paying a month. And I just added that to the next smallest one, which would be the bank. So instead of paying the bank $30 a month, I started paying them $60 a month. And then once I got that done, then I took that extra 60 and I worked on my next debt, say treatment. Instead of paying treatment $30 a month, now I'm paying them $90 a month, right? And then I get that paid off. And then I take that $90 and I add it to the credit cards or to the parents. And instead of $30, I'm paying them 120. And then once that's paid off, I take that 120 and I put it all towards the last debt. And I'm paying that 150 consistently. And so that's up for you to decide of how you're going to use that. That's what I did. And that seemed to work out really well. But anyway, this is the budget sheet. Hopefully this helps. I want you to know that there is hope. Finances for me were one of the scariest amends to do, to face what I actually owed people. And it was one of the most beneficial things that's ever happened to me. Now I'm debt free except for my home. My credit score has improved dramatically, and the same thing can happen for y'all. Thanks for letting me share.